So, welcome. We are live on the 8th session of the Queen of Hearts Chronicle. This is now the second story of our Chronicle. I haven't fully decided on the title yet because events haven't actually taken place. But our first story was the Thorn and Blood Handshake Chronicle or something like that. It was Thorn and Blood something. It was because I was going with the theme of if you handshake someone with thorns, then there's blood, and then there's the metaphor of both, whatever. So we have that kind of going on. It's visually thematic. I don't remember the exact wording I used, but that's that. So that's that. Now we're moving into the second story. So everyone's got their willpower back. Everyone's ready to go for a new night. So just before we start, as a recap from the last session was specifically the event of Charlotte being brought to trial for her quote-unquote crimes against the prince and, her rudeness. They were basically let go on charges of being ill-bred and not, fit for society, which is not necessarily a positive sentence, but they weren't executed. So it ends up being a lose-win kind of thing. And they were basically forced, and their lawyer, Alden Moss, was forced to take them into his home, where it was discovered that he had some kind of mistress or strange person that Charlotte was able to identify as being Fae-like or having some kind of Fae nature. And now we are going to join the two who are joined in the manor at Lisa's Haven. Aravok is still your guest, and so at this point we open on the fourth sort of night, and this would be the actual second night that Aravok is staying at the household.
Okay.
Technically, Aravok would be allowed to, leave and roam the city as they want, during the day, if they so choose to do so, because they're not, they haven't made a bargain, so there's no vampiric quality that would make you want to sleep during the day or anything like that. So if there's anything you feel the need to do before, we can kind of skim over, but for the most part, we're going to focus on the night. So I don't know if you have anything you'd want to do during the day, because you do have that option.
Probably not.
Okay, so you just mostly hang around in the house. There's also the matter of this salamander.
Yes.
That's now sitting in the oven.
Okay.
It's just sort of resting on coals, basically. You don't keep the oven hot or on, but there's sort of warm coals that are just kind of keeping it, content and asleep, kind of like a little bed of coals that you have set up for it.
Okay.
So there's also that going on. And so I'll let you decide if you two want to have a conversation, or if you want to go check on the salamander, or if you have other errands that you'd like to attend to first before I interrupt you with anything else.
Actually, yes. So for starter, I will go to Aravok.
Okay.
And ask him good night. So, how are you doing? Making yourself comfortable here?
Somewhat.
Good. Let me know if you need anything.
Of course.
I don't know if you are interested in reading, but there is a library in the East Tower, if you wish.
I will consider it.
All right. No, if you will excuse me, I have a few errands to do. So you can ask my you can ask my butler if you need for something.
Very well. Don't let me keep you.
So I salute him, and I go to check the salamander.
All right. So you check on the salamander. I'm not necessarily going to make you make like a medicine roll to determine that it's not in good health, because it would be fairly obvious that it seems injured, because William threw it off your house, and its like tail might be like visibly broken, and its body would be very badly bruised, and it would be sort of whimpering and sort of kind of having this kind of maybe embers instead of full on flames like coming off of its body. It's like a wounded Charmander type of thing, except it's not that big, or maybe it's around. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's it looks clearly like it's wounded. To what degree you're not sure. Maybe if you wanted to determine like how long it would take to heal, that would be the roll. Just to get an idea in character. Out of character, but in character you might want that information, but you don't need to roll to determine that it's hurt.
Okay.
It's basically just like resting there on the coals, and it's like coughing every once in a while, like, and it doesn't spew out fire or embers, so it's not like dangerous to you, but it just spews out a little smoke out of its mouth, like as it's kind of making these coughing motions, and it's trying to like relax.
Okay. So does it look like it's recovering at least?
You're not. That would be probably like you're not really 100% sure if it's recovering or not. Like that would be harder for you to determine. It doesn't look any better than it did yesterday.
Okay. Well, don't have any dots in medicine, so
I'd still let Animal Ken work here if you want to use like Wit's Animal Ken.
okay, I will try with some animal cans then.
I'll be generous. It's technically like you could use that for animal medicine. It's weird.
So that would be 4 dice.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me check. Where is the here, dice. One success.
Success. Okay. So what information were you trying to gather from this sort of?
I was trying to see if it mostly if it was recovering, and more importantly if it's in danger right now, or
It doesn't seem like it's in danger right now. It actually seems like it's fairly comfortable. It's just hurt, but you would first say, well, it hasn't really recovered very much. But once you take a closer look at it, you realize the bruises are healing, at a supernatural rate. It's not a normal animal, and you would guess that it would probably be healed within a week or so if you just leave it. But it's not going to heal overnight. It's going to take at least a week before it's fully back to full capability.
all right. Well, I know what I want to do next.
All right, then. What would you like to do next?
I will go to my library and I will try making research on how to take care of a salamander.
Fantastic beasts and how to raise them. I get you. Okay. By the famous newt salamander. So you'd like to look into your manuals and see if you can find any information on salamanders and how to help them. Okay. Sure. You have an occult-based library, so I think that would be within the purview of that.
That's the idea.
So I will allow you to make the roll, and of course you have, as we mentioned, you have support from your staff and your sire. So it would be fairly easy for you to do so, but the roll would still be necessary just for the sake of determining to what breadth of information.
Okay, so
you can.
If I am correct, that would be intelligence plus occult plus library.
Yep, that's correct. This isn't going to be an extended roll, so I'll just let you roll flat, and I'll give you +2 dice on top of that for the for your, assistance of your household and your
+2?
sire and such. Yeah, it's +2 on top of your normal bonus.
Well, that leaves me with 10 dice.
Very good. Okay, that seems reasonable to me. So let's go with 10. We'll see if you can get any information.
6 successes.
Okay, that's what I figured. All right, so you'll definitely, so what you research is essentially the alchemical sort of potence of the salamander, the ritualistic sort of nature of it, which is not actually what you determine this thing to be. You realize that based on what it is, it's clearly not, a spirit of any kind, because it's not incorporeal. It's not a spirit of flame. It's not it's a physical creature. So these books are describing, a spiritual salamander, but not a physical being. So what you realize is that this is most likely a fae or sort of other interdimensional type of being that isn't actually related to like a spiritual or magical, in terms of magical as in out of our reality type of area.
Okay.
Insofar as just being a ritual component, it's not that type of salamander. It's actually a physical being. And if you might take samples of it and realize that it's more reptilian in nature than you first expected, because it has scales. It's almost like it's more of a miniature sort of tiny little dragon type of creature, like a hatchling of some kind. It's not a dragon, of course, because it would have different properties. It doesn't seem to have wings. Might be some kind of offspring or sort of derivative of a draconic creature. But you realize that Eravak might have some knowledge or information that would pertain to this. In this case, the condition that I would give you would be more of a it'd be the inspired condition. So you'd get a because most of the books that you have actually relate to occultic salamanders, but you'd still get an inspired condition for that. So it'll be inspired, and then you'll have the occult skill. So that means that if you get, I think it's 3 successes on an occult check, then it counts as a critical, and then you get a willpower back as well. So it'll be helpful for you in the future. But you do read a good bit about alchemical rituals and occult rituals related to fire, but you realize the true nature of this creature is more draconic, and so perhaps Eravak would know more about this than you could.
Well, then I will go back to Eravak and talk him about it.
Okay. So you visit him?
Yes. Hi again. Guy, if you are trying to talk, I think your mic is muted.
Yes, I am muted.
So, hello, good night again, Eravak.
Yes. Is there something you need?
I apologize to disturb you, but yes, there is something I thought you might be able to help me with. Maybe you remember the flaming animals that came last night and Willem tried to hunt?
Ah, yes. The tiny fellow.
Yes, I am still keeping it alive in my oven. I was hoping you could maybe help me figure out what it is exactly and how to take care of it. it's hurt, and I would like to nurse it back to full health.
I'll actually post. I found a good excerpt on Wikipedia that describes how salamanders were described in early folklore. So I will actually, or more Renaissance folklore. So that's the kind of information you would have. So I'll paste that in the out of character here. You can skim it if you like. I'll just make sure that you have that information because that's most of the information that you would gain.
Very well. I could take a look at it.
Thank you. If you would please follow me, the kitchen is that way.
Erebov gives a slight bow and sort of, stands from the seat he's sitting in.
So I take him to the kitchen, and once we are here, I open the oven and show him the salamander inside.
All right. So for Aravok, I'd like you to make an intelligence and composure based check.
Yeah, good.
This is worth noting. It's not a knowledge of your this isn't a knowledge of your intelligence of occult lore or of what you know of salamanders. This is a check of your memory, of what you remember. Because that knowledge is deeper in this case than knowledge that you would have learned.
So any positives and negatives?
I'll actually give you like a plus one here because this would be something that you would know very well.
Whoa, crit fail.
So it's not a crit fail, but if you want to make it a crit fail, you could choose to.
Well, there's no successes there. I got 2 1s.
Oh.
So would you like to make that a critical failure then?
Of course.
Okay. So then you can take a beat.
Damn it.
Well, obviously, the best way to that you would recognize to deal with this thing is to destroy it immediately, because it represents an immediate threat to everyone in this household. Because you do remember that this creature is a servant of your gentry. It is an immediate threat to you and to everybody here.
And the fuck?
It is actually looking for you. So you would immediately, your reaction is up to you, but you know that it is extremely dangerous to keep this thing around. If they're planning on nursing it back to health, yeah, that is not going to, be something that like would be safe for you, because you know that this thing is clearly after you at this point, that it is something that you would not want to, assuming, your relationship with your gentry is a little complicated. But what you do know is that it's an enemy of you. It's not an ally to you. It's not, it's not a cute little fire creature. It's a servant of something that captured you, that kept you, and that tortured you, So that's worth noting. And I also would like you to make a clarity check as well, because of that sort of out of reality. It's going to be, I'm calculating it now because I was thinking it was going to be a little higher.
You make a critical fail of this.
Yeah, you want to actually. So this one would be probably be, I would say, oh yeah, this one is 2 + 2, so 3 dice.
Okay. Will these explode?
Yeah. Although it doesn't really matter if you get, unless you get, unless you get exceptional. 2 successes. Okay. So that just means you roll 1 die now to see if you take damage. Okay, no, that's good. And you mark the beat that you got before for the failure,
I've done
Okay.
that.
Just making sure. So you kind of have a moment of shock as you realize, like, oh, I know what this thing is. You know, they used to crawl around on the little volcanoes or the little places where you would sleep, like when you were at this household of your gentry, and as you were exploring these places, you remember seeing these creatures like skittering around, crawling in Arcadia. So you've seen them before. You know what they are, and they're asking you, well, how should we take care of it? And you're like, oh, like I don't. You want to take care of it? Yeah, exactly.
Simple. And he sort of raises his hands, and he's going to axe handle the entire snow.
Okay.
What are you doing?
I am going to destroy it.
I don't think so. Why would you want to destroy it? It looks harmless.
As harmless as I may seem now.
I give him a blank stare, like thinking, really? You think you look harmless?
It is a matter of perspective.
Look, I am sorry if that thing reminds you of something that was dangerous, but I have the ability to sense feelings inside creatures. I did sense it when it arrived, and I assure you it means no harm to anyone.
It sort of coughs fire at Eravok in almost like in like a recognizory way. Like it actually like it doesn't seem to notice like Lisa, but it almost like as you kind of walk and like startle it with the it does kind of skitter around in the little oven, and then it immediately like focuses on you and starts like coughing and breathing like smoke in your direction. So it clearly has this recognition of you that you can you can see that it actually is like looking at you and like has a recognition of you. And these things aren't super intelligent, but it might have just been sent here to gather information.
Hello.
There's Dustin, the one I mistook Sanche for.
Yes, I've just gotten home and I have not eaten dinner yet, so I am just here to somewhat listen as I go get Subway.
Good to know.
Long story short, Eravok just looked at my salamander attempting to figure out what it is. He made a critical failure, and now he thinks it's highly dangerous.
Okay.
It's half true. It is somewhat dangerous, but it's not dangerous right now. But he believes it to be an imminent threat to his safety.
Sounds like an alien probe.
It pretty much is a probe. Like that's essentially how I'm describing it. They basically like you would be aware they probably sent it here to sort of probe out where you are or find information on you. So if at any time this thing leaves the house and goes back to the hedge, then there's a very high chance that they might send something bigger after you next. And you know that. So that's why I'm saying you recognize you need to get rid of this thing quickly, because if it escapes, then you could have a huge problem on your hands. They could be sending, they could send an army here, and you might want to, Lisa might need to know that information, because your keeper has access to like armies of dragons. They could send into London to destroy the city. If this, if they had enough information that they could.
Impressive armies of dragons. Impressive, like that blue eyes white dragon you see right there.
But I'm just giving you context for why you'd be, paranoid, because it's a legitimate threat.
Look, this lizard is part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away.
This is getting more and more ridiculous. Okay, well. So, is he telling me that?
No, he's not saying that.
No, I think he's saying, would you explain the threat of the salamander to Lisa?
Yes, that's what I am asking.
Currently, our problems are small. But should it make it back, you would have bigger things to contend with.
I see.
Is he still wearing the Darth Vader helmet for that?
What?
For some reason, it sounded like you were still wearing the Darth Vader helmet for that.
No, that was just their voice.
I wasn't even wearing the Darth Vader helmet to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Look, I understand your concerns, but I really don't want to kill it. I mean, there is so much I could learn from it. So, how about we keep it alive, but I will make sure, I give you my word, I won't let it go back to wherever it came from.
Okay, now we have a choice. You can seal them to that if you choose, or not. I like to prompt, because eventually you're not going to need me to tell you. Like, you're going to, because we had the last time I played Changeling, I had to tell them, okay, the first time, do you want to seal that promise? And then once they got the hang of it, it was, I didn't.
Well, this time he'd see it as a little more of a risky proposition.
Okay. So you have a choice. You can either spend 1 glamour or 1 glamour and willpower. If you want to make it more severe if they break the promise.
I will spend a glamour and a willpower.
Okay. So what you would do then is you would first mark that on your sheet as a pledge. So you'd have a section for pledges, and then you'd write, okay, and then you'd have to mark that you spent willpower on it, because then I need to know that. And then that would be the pledge that you make with them, and then they don't really get a say in them because they've already agreed to it.
So would I put that under conditions, or
you could put it under conditions. I usually have a separate section for pledges, but if you want to put it under conditions as like a sealing,
I'll pop it there for now.
Yeah. So it'd be called a sealing, which is basically when you seal a mundane promise.
Do I have to write anything on my sheet, or is it only him?
Usually it would be, you would both write it, but in this case, it's mostly, since he's the changeling, you would just write it on his.
Okay.
So that you have a pledge with Lisa, and if they break it, then they face the consequences. It's pretty, like, in terms of a sealing, it's pretty one-sided towards them. Because they're basically binding you to it, and you don't really get a say. So it's like kind of bad for you.
Well, I did say I wanted it to stay alive. So
right. So that's important too. If it dies for some reason, that would also violate the promise.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep it alive, and what was the other clause that you said?
Well, yes. The other clause, I said I wouldn't let it go back to.
Okay, yeah, that was so you said that too. So those would be important for you to know, because if either of those things happen, that would violate the binding, and then stuff would happen to Lisa based on that. Okay, good. It's one of my favorite mechanics, so I do like to just make sure that people take advantage of it. All right.
Actually, I was counting on him doing that because I thought this was the only way to ensure he wouldn't try to kill it while my back is turned.
And you do notice that there is, when you make the promise, it does feel more intense than, you're not just speaking it. You almost feel that there's a promise. It feels a lot more intense than you're used to. It doesn't hurt you, it doesn't, but you feel this sensation almost as if, you've made an important decision, an important promise.
Yes.
He was willing to take your word for it before, but this time, yeah.
Okay. So.
I am completely honest about it. I actually don't want it to go back to, again, wherever it came from.
That's good.
I think it would be much more useful to me if I could keep it and use it against intruders.
That's fair. That's fair. So,
I say that ask in character.
What, you say that in character?
Yeah, they're saying like, oh, it'd be much more useful if I kept it alive for me so I could use it,
I explained to you. So as you see, my interest is in keeping it here.
As the old saying goes, play with fire and you will get burned.
I know. I have played with unknown force before, and I ended up dead.
It sort of is hissing at Eravok at this point, like it's like sizzling, and its body is like sizzling with like heat.
So now, I guess you don't know how to take care of it then?
To give you context, for why you would answer this, like how you would answer, you were never, you're not a woman, so, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but it's this idea of that's how the society was divided. So you weren't assigned to like take care of these salamanders or like do any of the kind of like housework, and you weren't like in the your keeper's harem. Like that's what the women did. They provided, the labor at that in Arcadia or around the hedge where they lived. They were his harem, and you did the front lines, like you were fighting and you were, doing these things that were considered more, the male oriented. And you in your own mind also have that kind of divide. So if you're like, why would I know how to take care of it? I'm a man.
Oh.
It's the kind of, is the kind of answer you might give.
Okay.
It was never my role to oversee such things.
How unfortunate. Well,
that was mostly for the women.
I see. Well, I apologize for disturbing you then.
As you kind of stand there in contemplation, there's a knock at the door.
So, well, I close the oven and I go to open the door. And before I go, I tell to Ravok, you are free to go wherever you want now. Again, sorry for the disturbance.
I'd suggest fitting a lock to that oven.
Mikhail's like, yeah, I can seal it. I can create a lock of a kind.
That could actually be a good idea. We don't know if it's not gonna run out while we are not looking.
These manuals describe different seals that can be used to bind them. And you're like, I feel like you'd correct him. Like, that's not. It's a different type of salad. It's not gonna work. We can't use. You can't use our chemical seals to bind a fae. It's not gonna help. But he's like, okay, well then I'll just make a lock.
Your peasant magic will not be able to contain this creature.
So he's gonna just work on trying to find like an old like lock or chains, for binding and such.
Anyway, I'm gonna open the door. You two, please try not to kill each other while I'm busy.
So as
that is a rather humorous thought.
So while Mikhail's working on that, you see Roland at the door, and he has like a satchel, and he's pulling out some letters. He's like, "Oh, hello,
Roland.
I have gifts.
Gifts
for you." Like points at you. These are for you.
Who are you and what have you done to the real world?
I promised I wouldn't do anything to you guys. What, you don't trust me? Well, okay.
I am not accusing you of doing anything, but I was under the impression you...
Oh, believe me, I still hate being here. He's like giving this like really awkward like fake smile. He's like, I really hate being here, but this is my job. I can't just not give you your mail. That's just wrong. Who would steal your mail? Not me. No, I didn't do that.
Break his fucking kneecaps.
He's so lucky I cannot do Auspex level 2.
Well, anyway, I have some letters. This one was addressed to you personally. He like hands you one letter that appears to be like a post office, like actual like someone must have actually like mailed you a letter, and the other one is like personal. It has a seal on it from from him, like he has a seal on it. It's like, this is a secret communication. This one is mortal mail. This one is important.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you wish to come inside for a few minutes, take a drink or something?
What, you have drinks here? I didn't know you had a herd. I thought Mikhail would be against that sort of thing.
I don't actually, but I can arrange something.
No, well, I'm all right. I'm quite all right.
Okay, well.
But I'll come in if you want. I usually don't get permission.
Well, as long as you don't do any trouble,
Oh no, don't worry. I won't. I'm just gonna sit right here. He like sits down.
Okay. No, I let him.
Kind of crosses his legs, just like sitting there.
So anyway, what are you doing this night?
Oh, me? Oh, just the usual. This is my job. I deliver mail. I'm a courier.
You're a courier? Funny. I always was under the impression you did something bigger inside the court.
Oh, you would hope, right? Between you and me, there's a. He leans in. He's like, well, between you and me, Primogen Seed is open, so I've kind of got my eyes on that. If I play my cards right, I'm gonna have a much bigger position in the future. But right now, I'm just kind of, making the paces.
I see. And I'm sorry. I am still new to the All-Night Society. So, have you been there for long?
Oh, I've been around for quite some time. Few decades now, I think.
Oh. May I ask how you ended up joining the Damned?
Oh, that's a long story. You probably don't need to hear it.
I would be happy to.
Oh, I'm sure you would, but you have mail to read, right? That is more pressing.
You're
Trust
right.
me, it is.
Mail time, mail time,
Yeah,
mail
right.
time.
You're right.
This like fey dog just appears like in the blue dog out of nowhere.
Well, I will be reading. Make yourself at home and just try to not catch the attention of Mikhail.
Yeah, I noticed he's in the other room. uh,
So, before I read question, does that qualify as learning more about Roland?
yeah, actually, like you learned his kind of goal. I think that counts. We'll talk about it at the end of the session.
Okay.
So the reason why his backstory is probably something that he definitely wouldn't share with you, and it's also something that I haven't really put immediate thought into. But
Okay.
you would get the idea that he is definitely a lot older than you. I'm not sure how old he would be compared to Mikhail, but as you could see on his sheet, he's at least 100. So
Okay.
he's been around for quite some time, and I wasn't exactly sure where he was embraced or for what reason, but he can tell you about Alistair. But it'd probably be better if you got that information from them directly.
Well, so I will start opening my mails then.
Which one do you open first? There's the sealed one, and then there's the regular letter.
I will open the regular one first.
Okay. I'm just imagining it's like one of these video game choices where it's like you have to choose your mortal side or your supernatural. It's like you're gonna open both anyway. Who cares? Like it's not.
Actually, I will open both. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It doesn't. It does. It's not like one you can't open. So you both open both. So the letter that was addressed to you personally is a letter from your fiance.
I knew it.
You read the contents of the letter, and this was information that you were previously unaware of. That he had been traveling to Paris, and has returned or is like in the process of returning back to London.
Oh.
Because they hadn't been in the city for it seems like a good bit of time, and you weren't, for some reason you didn't know about this previously. And
Well, I probably didn't know because I was in Egypt.
Right. So while you were in Egypt, they were also traveling, and now they wanted to inform you that they've returned to the city, and they're looking forward to meeting with you. This would probably be the next night or whenever they're arriving. But they mentioned actually I think it would be. Yeah, I think I remember it was going to be that they were going to arrive at the end of the week. So in about 3 days' time, you'll be able to see your fiance again.
Oh.
So you're now made aware of when they'll arrive, and of course where they would be. Give me a moment. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right, I just got a text.
Okay. Okay, so
The other letter is what you were curious about?
I beg your pardon?
Were you curious about the other letter?
I am, yes.
Okay. So that letter is written in a different handwriting. It's written by a different person, and it seems to concern matters that are a lot more potently sort of supernatural. So the crux of what's important is that Roland, and this is a letter that's written by him, presumably for Mikhail, but you're reading it. It's not like it makes a difference. You're the head of the household, but he's basically, and it seems like he's written and copied this information, multiple times, because he's addressed this to multiple people. But he's mentioning in this letter that it has come to his attention that a fae is the one who kidnapped his child. And
yeah. So. Oh.
And he has brought this matter up to the prince, and the prince has decided to remain neutral in the matter, which is greatly frustrating to Roland. So he has decided to contact, other people within the society to see if he can form an alliance against this, and perhaps make contact with other fae who might have information on where this princess, as she's called, is, so that he can take action against it. Because Roland doesn't want to sit around when there's someone who actually actively took his child away and tortured them based on the information that he's heard from Alistair. He doesn't want this person to be let off due to not wanting to upset some kind of political balance that the prince has decided would be safe for him. He's willing to work with whoever he has to get this done.
Oh my god. I had no idea what this had happened to your child. I'm sorry.
Well, neither did I, to be honest. Nobody's watching us, right? In this house, you don't have people.
Can I use the specs to make sure of that?
Sure. Yeah, it's free for the first use, so you can scan. You don't find anyone that would be, spying for. Well, you don't see anything like suspicious that would, imply that you're being spied on. But he's just kind of concerned that the prince might have eyes here. But as far as I'm aware, he doesn't have anybody within the household that you know of that would be working with him.
So do I still make a roll?
No, you don't need to make a roll. I'm just going to give you that information.
Okay.
Just from you scanning the perimeter, you're like, well, I don't see anyone who'd be spying on us. So no, it seems like we could talk openly about it here. But he doesn't want to communicate with the prince about this.
Nobody is there. You can talk freely.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't know how to deal with creatures like this. Juliet has always said that she is completely against their existence. And from the limited amount of conversation that we've had, she seems to agree with me that we should take immediate action. The prince and Anne are firmly against upsetting any kind of balance between the other forces. This might not be clear to you, but we're aware of forces outside of ourselves. Shape changers and the workers of magic, which the prince seems to be very strongly against, as well as the Fae, who sometimes even wander into this city. They, as I understand it, in older times, formed an alliance against us, our kind, to prevent us from causing danger in their territory, as they saw it. And ever since then, the political situation has been a bit turbulent. The prince doesn't want to engage with them and risk any kind of retaliation. But I don't really see any reason why this crime should be forgiven.
You know, Roland, I have been doing research about fairy creature lately, and I'm starting to wonder something.
What's that?
What if there aren't all the same faction of Fae? What if there are some of them that actually are against the same phase and the one who took your child?
Well, I wouldn't know. I don't know many Fae personally. I'm not even sure if they really exist. Juliet's told me stories of what she's seen, and there's, of course, this dragon, but I don't know what that means. Is this dragon of yours, is he allied with them? I can't say. I don't know who his alliances are, towards. I have no idea what faction he belongs to. You should ask him. Maybe he would know better than me of what alliances are to be drawn.
Give me a second, please.
Sure.
Arman?
Your butler comes to you.
Okay, so please, two important things. So first, prepare a new guest room. We will have a visit soon.
All right, I will prepare. We only have one room remaining, but I will make sure that it is cleaned and prepared for our guest.
If necessary, prepare my parents' room.
Oh, of course.
And second, please bring Iravok and Iravok here, and if possible, Willem and Alistair would be welcome too.
Right. At that, we see Armin sort of walk away from the scene, and we fade up towards the moonlight, and we transition into another world. So for Charlotte, I'll ask you, what are you dreaming about?
What am I dreaming about?
What sort of world do you create within your mind's eye as you drift off to sleep?
I have full control over what I dream, or?
Yes, that's correct. Normally, you'd have to make a roll, but since there's no pressure or anything going on, I'll just assume that you can do it for the sake of being able to proceed with the scene.
Right. Well, in this dream, I'd say that.
I'm basically giving you a freebie, so.
Right, fair enough.
Yep. Because I wanted you to have at least one dream sequence, so.
So, in Charlotte's dream, slowly as she fades away and like she's sort of huddled up in this closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like she's surrounded by walls, so she closes her eyes and slowly she feels more like space build around her as if the walls are slowly being pushed away. And this continues for a few minutes until finally, when the walls seem like they're far enough away, when she opens up her eyes, it reveals the walls are no longer walls, but they're in reality there's bookshelves now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're layered and they're filled with all sorts of things. From books of law that remind her of the recent trial, a plethora of book of medicine from all learning she's done, and then of course there's a small section dedicated just to her gentry and the fate and the hobgoblins and the face she saw. So that I'd say that part of her dream is like sort of like it's almost like the dark forbidden section from Hogwarts. Like there's like a glass panel over that section.
What's the rest of the is it a library or is it just bookshelves? Like what's the
It's sort of like
space
a
around
circular library, but it's surrounding her.
Okay.
And it's separating different sections based on what she remembers and what she's most recently encountered. And as I said, like
Are
the more
there
darker parts are like.
Are there other people in the library? Are you alone? Are there projections that you've created inside of this dream that are there, or is it just empty?
Sometimes she has. This time, no. This time in her dream, there is no one in her library with her.
Okay. I'm just confirming for the rule's sake because.
No.
So in this case, the projections that you're creating are actually the books themselves.
Yeah. So
okay.
What she sort of does is she goes up to one of the bookshelves. She looks through it. She picks out an old book. It looks actually really almost childish, really, as if it was like. It looks rugged, like as if like a child had handled it for many years. And after she takes a book, out of nowhere, a luxurious chair pops up in like the center of the library, and she takes a seat and she plops open the book. And what it's revealed is it looks like it's some sort of coloring book almost from when she was a child.
All right.
And as she reads this, I guess this would be as she reads this book of her childhood, a small projection of a much younger version of herself, still human, sort of like gathers at like the right end of the chair and watches her as she reads.
You make me a. This would be presence plus. What are you trying to express here? I guess it may be maybe composure, presence, composure.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's just more like a flavor thing of like this is like what goes on in her head, I guess, when she thinks of these memories.
The changes you make in the dream are relevant. So.
All right. So dice.
Composure, yeah.
Copy, paste, and 4 dice, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I have 2 successes.
Very nice. Okay, so that means you do actually get an effect from that. That's a good thing. That means that you can. I'm trying to see what effect would be the most relevant here, just so that I can see what would be the best for you. You can spend 1 glamour here to actually like kind of dive into that projection and kind of learn about them, if that makes sense. Like learn about your childhood.
So like dive into the deep subconscious and remember things?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll pay the glamour. I think I'll knock him down to 6 glamour. Let me go check.
Sure.
The computer froze for a second.
Fine.
There we go. Alright, yeah, that'll drop me down. Actually, that'll drop me down to 5 glamour.
Okay. So in this case, since you're yourself, I would say that you're reading about your childhood and then you kind of shift your mind state back to that of childhood, and you are now your childhood self, and you're walking in, I would say, a new scene. You can create all of that. So it's Inception. You've literally entered into the mind of now yourself inside of your dream.
I gotta create a new scene of my childhood self. Alright. This version of Charlotte is, as you might imagine, she's human. She's very young. She's maybe about like 6 or 7 at this time. And in reality, it's like a classic scene. As I said, like the book in itself looked as if it were drawn by her. So what this scene really is it shows Charlotte in front of a fireplace, which would be her home, and in the background, her mother is making supper. Her father's isn't home yet from work, and she's sort of just drawing and humming to herself as she draws in this book.
All right. You sort of your parents are sort of just asking you, how your day was, making small talk, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I had fun. I played around Daddy's study and everything.
I'm gonna ask you more questions so I can hear you talk in that cute voice. Oh my goodness. You notice playing around in the room is this strange other person that you don't remember. You know that they don't belong there, that they shouldn't be there. You know that they don't belong. But there's someone there that looks like you walking around in your home, your childhood home, and they look very similar to you, maybe just slightly older.
Upon seeing this, I'd be like, Mommy, did you ever have another baby?
I think they're just you look over at your mother, and of course they're not in detail. They're just sort of obscured, and they don't really give you an answer. And you see this other girl kind of tugging at your mother, and they immediately sort of respond to them, and you're just sitting on the floor and making notes in this little coloring book.
Oh.
And you notice this other girl is basically getting all the attention from your parents. Your father comes over, picks her up and plays with her, and you're still sitting there on the ground.
Oh. I'd say she sort of goes up and she begins to tug at her father's pant leg. Daddy, who's that?
I think like what you hear as he turns around is this horribly sort of muffled noise, and you make out the words of it's you, as in it's you. They're saying it's you, and
Like me.
and you kind of see everything in your dream start to fade into this this scene where you're being pulled away from your house. You're being stretched away from your home. Your father is no longer the man that you remember, and you can hardly remember him, but now he's just the same man with a mask who takes you and pulls you away from your family, and you wake up from the dream within the dream, and you're brought back into yourself.
I'm brought back to the library.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Do I have a time limit for how long the stream lasts? Or
you're not sure, but you're there now, and I'd like you to make me a clarity roll. So it's going to be 3 dice.
and I want to fail on this roll, right?
That's correct.
Oh boy. Alright. I'll go to it right now.
Normally, other people would be doing this to you, but
Student success is perfect. Perfect.
Good, very good, perfect. So normally other people would be doing this to you, but since you faced no opposition, it is kind of interesting to me that you could actually explore the trauma for yourself. But you have accepted this as part of your life. You realized, and so to understand, you did get a success before. So it's this idea of you understand that this is representing that your touchstone, your new touchstone, you were originally going to make your touchstone like your home, but it's now your diary, and your memories are important to you. But what's important also is that you remember that your family no longer recognizes you as yourself. Your old life, your life as a person, is gone, and you were taken away from that life. And now there's another you who exists in your life. And you want to be, you tried to create a situation where, oh, they're your sister, you can coexist with them, you can be with them, you can be together. You want that, but this dream is trying to show you that deep down there's a doubt that that isn't possible. You know you can't live in the same household as someone who is you. They can't be your sister. You know it's not real. It's a fantasy. It was a lie that you had to tell, and you know that it can't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, but you don't break over it necessarily, but it's something that you'd realize from this moment.
Mm-hmm. All right, so she just accepts it.
Do you do anything further in the library, or do you just sit there and take in the scene?
I guess the next thing I guess she would do is maybe, now that her mind's on the fetch, she would go over to the more Changeling section of her library and pull out a book on fetches to see if she could remember anything in particular about them.
There are a few books that you have lining that section. There are books on fairy tales, books on sort of fantasy creatures, of monsters, of playful things, of castles and princesses, and you come up to sort of one particular tale of what exactly do you view this fetch as within your own mind? What sort of fairy tale does it conjure for you? What does it represent in fictionally? Is it a doppelganger? Is it a mermaid? Like what form of creature does it take?
I would say it's sort of a doppelganger, as if she were to imagine herself, she would imagine a piece of her was ripped out, and then this is what became of it. It became what the fetch is.
What you see is in the library there's sort of this light. There's a light in the room that is abstractly sort of coming from nowhere. And as you open the book and read about these myths and legends, the myth plays out within your dream. The shadow behind you extends and becomes more prominent, and then it is cut off from you. Your shadow is separated from your body, and you see it just sort of walking around and starting to take the shape of your fetch. And it starts taking books off of your bookshelf. It causes this chaos. It raids your medical section, the precious knowledge that you have. It just starts walking over and it starts taking your books.
All right. The second that they even start approaching the books without asking, you just see like Charlotte slowly get up, and like she slips her hand in between the cushions of her sofa, right? And then when she pulls it out, there's a scalpel in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And she slowly walks towards like the person who's busy reading her thing, she sort of goes to stab at the thing's jugular, knowing that would probably be the fastest way to end a human being's life, at least, trying to hit the mean.
So that's going to be...
I have no rules for anything. All right, this should be good.
It's going to be Dex plus... or actually, so it's up to you whether you want to use Dex or Manipulation here. But I think it would be Dex, and let me check because I made a pin for this. I'm going to double check what the rules say, because it's either Dex or Manipulation. I don't know which is better for you. I'd rather you just take what's better.
I have both at 3, Nova.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's very good. So then it would be
trying to stab a dream version of her fetch.
Would I be?
It says power. Okay, so it would be, yeah. So if you want, you can use Dex and Stealth, and then you could add +1.
All right, so that's 7 dice.
Sure, I'll allow that.
All right, if I crit this, there's an interesting idea. Actually, I'm gonna use willpower for this as well because I have an interesting idea for this.
Sure, I'll allow
it. For symbolic reasons.
You can spend willpower on this.
All right, so I'm gonna use 1 willpower.
Yeah. Sorry, did Olivia, did you have a question?
I was just asking, is she seriously trying to stab a dream version of her fetch?
It's just to work
You
it out.
shut up.
Just to work it out somehow.
There are ways to solve these issues, and apparently stabbing them is what she thinks is best. Yeesh.
She can technically, depending on how many successes she gets here, it could
2
actually
successes. I want to kill myself.
2 successes. It's not nothing. You do
Fair
achieve
enough.
something. So I'll give you a few options here. You can. I'll say what you could do is actually you could use the glamour to make the weapon more powerful, and then it would give you more of a it would give you like because you're manipulating the dream by using this roll. So what you could do is use it to create the weapon that could attack it, because it's normally just made of shadow, right? So you normally wouldn't be able to go through it, but if you made a weapon that could attack it, then that would help you.
Oof.
That would be a glamour. You
A
could.
scalpel turned into a small machete.
That is possible. You could essentially harm it. That is an option that you have with the glamour as well. And you'd need to spend glamour because you're manipulating the dream. It's not simply just being able to attack it. You have to change the logic of the dream so that you can harm it, if that makes sense.
Can I use glamour to try and subdue it?
Yeah, but it would be dependent on how you choose to do that. So you could choose to say, make yourself more powerful to subdue it. You could make a weapon, as I said. You could learn its weaknesses, that sort of thing. But it's not a situation where you can just knock it down, but you have to decide what method you're going to use to do it.
That's a good question. I think I want to say she would study the thing. I feel like given her nature, she would try and essentially like study it almost if it's like a patient or a specimen before she strikes.
Okay. So that would give you the ability to spend glamour to learn its weaknesses. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna spend, I guess, 1 glamour to learn its weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. So what you end up doing is you realize that attacking this shadow physically isn't where it's weak. You need to use another method, because if you stab it, it's just going to go through. You can't harm it with, by stabbing it, physically. You need to find another method to disable it. And you realize this is true in real life as well. This correlates to the fetch. It seemed very healthy and very potent in terms of its vigor. When it's running around in the real world, when you saw it moving, it was a lot, more vigorous than you were.
Oh, I have an idea. Actually, that actually gives me a good idea. I'm going to try and I guess upon realizing this, she's going to gently slide the scalpel back into her. Well, I guess it's since maybe it disapparates or something.
Right.
And she's going to.
It doesn't matter. You could shove it in your boobs. It wouldn't make a difference.
I shove it in my boobs and hope I don't cut myself. And I guess she's going to use persuasion and manipulation. Well, basically, persuasion manipulation role. She's going to beg for the shadow to rejoin her.
Okay. So you beg to the shadow to become one with you again. You beg for its forgiveness. Okay. So what I'll say, I want you to roll.
Never seen Peter Pan. You need to sew it on.
She sort of like puts a hand over her heart, and like in a tone that looks as if she sounds like physically and emotionally hurt. Please Please come back to me. You know we are but two halves. We can't go on living as separate beings anymore. Not that I'm back here. Not that I'm alive still. You should know this.
Okay. So I want you to roll me manipulate. What is your composure?
My composure's 3, my manipulation's 3, my persuasion's 4, and I have a talent in begging.
Okay, so that's going to be manipulation plus persuasion plus your begging plus another one from, I'll say, oh yeah, you don't get weird for this. And then I will give you +1 for stunt because there are stunt rules that I'm
Alright,
using here.
that's 9 dice. I'm tempted
And
to use
then
another willpower.
You
Shit.
get -3 from your own composure because in a lot of these actions you're fighting against your own subconscious here.
Alright, I'm gonna use willpower to block that out.
Okay.
So I'll
fair.
have 9 dice in total.
Sounds like a good idea to me. And critting on this is very good, so it's something you definitely would want to do.
Come on, I haven't had that too many good rolls. Where are my exalted rolls? Come on. Where are my exalted rolls? Ah! I'm gonna go Chronicle. I'll be
One
right back.
success is not optimal. Well, there you go. You don't get nothing from that though. You do succeed. So what happens is your shadow stops taking the books, for one thing. Your shadow does stop taking the books. It sort of gives you it turns around and it sort of gives you a hug. It wraps its arms around you, but what you wanted to happen was you wanted to recombine with your fetch, with your shadow, but it won't.
I nuzzle it.
It kind of you nuzzle with it. It's not soft. It doesn't feel like a person. It doesn't feel like a thing. It feels ephemeral, but you can feel it, and it kind of wraps its arms around you, and it feels kind of cold. But it doesn't come back to you. It can't. And you realize this. Like it's separate from you now, and you don't know how to get it to return to you. It seems like it would want to. And you're both kind of, for lack of a better term, into each other.
Is it kind of like we're trying to fit together, but the puzzle pieces aren't really
right?
fitting?
You're not sure why, but you just can't come back with it in such a simplistic. It's not going to be that simple. You realize it's a little more complicated than just both of you coming to an agreement. And even if you both wanted to return, if she wanted to become part of you again, it can't just happen that simply. And I think you start to see the form of the doctor. And they pull out a screwdriver. No, I'm kidding. The doctor at the
good old
hospital.
Shink.
The doctor, the hospital the doctor that you saw at the hospital, the one that was with you at the trial. She forms and she speaks to you and she says that she's sorry.
Charlotte's sort of less like a rat, like a ragged size. It's the whole effort to not be violent and to not give in to her instincts was, I guess, tiresome.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. We'll find a way. One day.
The library it's late at night. You realize this is there a window in the library, or is there an opening?
There could be an overarching. There could be a circular window at the very top.
Okay. There's a circular window at the very top. You see through the glass. There's the moonlight, and you get this sense that the library is closing soon. Dream is ending. So you'll have to leave.
It looks like it's time to depart soon. She sort of lifts a single finger and presses it against the doctor's forehead. Till next time.
I think you hear her say she doesn't want to see you again.
I don't think that's an option anymore.
She just starts backing away, like, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. And she kind of, you see her like physically like hiding behind these bookcases. And like behind your medical books specifically, as if it's like a metaphor for their situation. They're sheltering themselves in that world, in that place, with that knowledge. And they don't have anywhere else to go.
Charlotte's are like, her shoulders droop slightly and she like sighs. As like the dream begins to come to a close, like you could maybe see like the library literally starts to, I guess, fall apart in a sense of like it begins like dematerialize. And as it happens, she just starts speaking. You can try and hide and run from the truth all you want. Close me out, but it'll only last for so long. That's what I sought to do back in that place, in the hedge. But it didn't work. The truth always came back burning, more and more, until it burned away through all my emotions. I had nothing left. You can try and hide, but you can never really shake off who you are or what you are. It's impossible, really.
At
It'll
that
always-
point, do you leave?
Yeah, she sort of turns on her heel and she sort of starts walking away.
Okay.
Oh.
You make your way out of the library, and once you leave, you see something strange on the horizon. You've never really seen something like this before. Usually you leave the library and your dream would just end. But you actually find yourself in a place outside of the library, as if there's an entire world stretched out beyond just your own. It's a metaphor. There's like an entire grasslands, like a large plains, the countryside, the English countryside, outside of the city. You recognize it, the geography. There's a large, long sort of horizon, hills in the distance. And in particular, on the horizon, under the moonlight, you can see that there's a castle. And as you see this castle, even for a moment, your consciousness almost starts to shift and fade, and we kind of move closer and closer to that place, and you feel as if the dream is being pulled towards something. You still have control, but there's almost as if there's something acting on it. Not something negative, but something else. You're not sure if it's negative or positive, but it's something.
Do I know it's something inside of me or is it something outside of my dream?
It feels like it might be both. You're not sure. Something that's inside, but something that you don't understand. Something that might be buried. Something that might be hidden, but something that you recognize is within you.
I'd say for now I'd let it take me.
This drawing, this feeling, this pull of something that you weren't aware of before, that you see this castle. And as we kind of pull closer to this castle, on top of one of the castles, you see a woman draped, wearing a black dress, a small sort of crown of sorts lining their head. Not like a crown of like a ruler, but a crown that's just sort of like a headdress of a kind that kind of resembles a crown, maybe. So like little pieces of gold or maybe silver kind of adorning their head, like a circlet. And they're wearing a veil over their face, like a veil of mourning, of tragedy. And they're staring out into the moonlight, and you see them gathering power and energy and these forces beyond the normal, the supernatural, this energy that she's pooling into her hands, and it blasts out as a burst of energy, of lightning, of power, of raw strength. And you see in the windows of the castle these knights who work in the shadows, in armor of blackness, of darkness. They brood to themselves in their rooms and contemplate the sorrow of the moon. And you see this, and you see this power, this darkness, this mystery.
Hmm. And I'm watching this all unfold. Hello?
His mic is muted for some reason.
Oh no.
What did you miss? I'm sorry. Did I
I heard like the gathering blast and I was about it.
the gathering of what? Sorry?
I heard like you see the gathering and then the blast happened.
Oh, okay. Oh, Sanche's muting me for some reason. I don't know what happened there. I was saying the blast of energy, and then we kind of move towards the windows of the castle, and we see knights hiding in the shadow and darkness hiding in the darkness and brooding over the moonlight and reflecting on the sorrow of their souls. And you feel this pull towards the towards this place. But then we sort of pull away from the castle, and your dream just starts to slowly fade, and you awaken into the closet, and it's now the
She's back in the closet again. Poor girl.
but it's the next, it ends up being the next night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's next nighttime?
Correct.
Oh yeah, because I slept out there, right? I say I slowly rise and press open the door and stretch my limbs because I was tucked in a ball all night, all day. Same thing, whatever.
Oh, you're back.
You don't seem terribly uncomfortable. You almost feel refreshed in your own mind. The dream.
Do I get a willpower back from the rest or no?
Yes, you do.
Oh, thank God.
You do feel refreshed from the dream. The dream did have this magical sort of fey quality to it, as if someone was assisting your dream, as you would expect from such a potent.
The fucking hobgoblin.
You don't believe it was their doing. It must have been something outside of this place. Something is calling you. The castle that you saw in your dream. It feels familiar to you, even though you've never been there before. And you don't know exactly where it is, but you know that it would be outside of the city. And you get a strong sense of that as you walk out of the closet. The study that Alden left for you is empty.
The what that Alden left for me?
The study. So he left you in the closet of his study. So his study is empty.
Alright, well, I'd say I'd take a look around this study and see what I could find.
As I described it before, you just see discarded sort of books, legal cases, things like that.
Alright, neglecting legal cases.
Books, things that would be in his possession, in terms of like different pieces of paperwork. There's a letter on his desk that has a seal on it that he's opened.
I'd say I glance over the was the letter that was sealed.
You read the same letter that was given to Lisa concerning the Fae princess having taken Alistair, and that information would now be known to you.
Oh, wonderful. So it looks like the little night zombies want to tussle with the Fae. Oh, joy. she sort of like taps like a finger on her chin, like I wonder, like thinking like I wonder how much they would offer for secrets on the Fae. But she immediately like dismisses the fact for the meantime and sort of sets upon entering the main room to see if she can find the hobgoblin.
She's sort of just sitting there, sipping what looks to be steaming hot coffee. It's a metaphor. She's sitting there, drinking coffee, or maybe it's hot chocolate. It's not clear.
Is that also a metaphor? Is chocolate a metaphor, Nova?
I'm not sure, but she likes chocolate. You notice that her hair isn't the same color as it was previously. When you entered the room before, her hair was like very bright aquamarine, a natural color her eyes matched. But now her eyes have faded into a more dull almond brown, and her hair is dark brown as well, like still the same length, but completely different color.
She decided to change the look up.
You ask her that in character?
Yeah, I asked her like, oh, so you decided to change the look up?
Excuse me, who are you? She like puts the cup down. I didn't know we had a guest. Hello. I'm sorry. She's wearing this time you actually see that she's wearing clothes. She's wearing sort of just this button-up shirt, very tight.
Quick question: how much do I know about hobgoblins?
You would know a decent amount. What's your occult rating?
My occult's 3.
Okay, so what are you trying to determine at this point? I guess
culture, status, and how do I like treat them, I guess. I don't know. Like for example, like you said like Nosferatu are kind of like, for example, the Nosferatu and vampires are kind of like looked down upon because they're weird and such. Like how do you like
I see what you mean. Okay. So yeah, you could make a roll for that.
All right. So occult and intelligence.
Yeah. I don't know if your socialize is higher, but that would also
I have no socialize.
Right, you don't. So it would just be occult then. It's more of a socialize roll, but I'll let you use occult here.
Wait, so it's only occult or is it occult intelligence?
I'll say it's it would be more of a I think it would be a composure and occult roll. I know that sounds weird, but if we're not using socialize, I think it'd be more about you trying to, speak the right way and
that's
hold
fine.
yourself.
2 successes. Damn. I'm barely skating by.
Remember, in this game, it's not like Exalted where 2 successes isn't very much. In this game, 1 success is enough for most tasks. So 2 successes is actually very good. You're not sure what her particular relationship with Alden is.
Didn't Alden say that he was with her?
Right. And you would assume that is you aren't sure at first, but you realize that they're probably dating. They're definitely sleeping together based on what you saw the other night. But what is strange to you is that she seems to have changed appearance, and that means that they either have the ability to shapeshift, or that there might be some sort of contract, magic going on, weird, fairy voodoo. So either she's shapeshifted from a previous form, or that she's being controlled or manipulated by another fae. But to answer your actual question in terms of how they're treated in fae society, it depends on the particulars. So they all usually have roles. So like a hobgoblin might be independent, completely from the gentry. They might be merchants, they might be slaves, they might be, they all have different roles based on what their appearance is. So if this is just simply a woman who is, and this is very important to kind of contextualize, if their major kind of expression, their role as you see it is a woman who is sleeping with a man, you could then kind of see that is their role, that is their purpose. They are a creature of sex.
Ah, they're a prostitute. Excellent.
As you could no, as you might use the word a succubus
They're Nell.
would be more accurate.
Oh God, not Nell again. No.
And so you might be able to kind of realize their place in that society based on that. Like if they're as a hobgoblin, they're bound to, a certain archetype usually because they're fey creatures. And so you recognize that she is a creature of sex, which you would associate with a succubus.
Well,
And so that might affect how you treat them, yeah.
Hmm.
No slut shaming.
Immediately just calls him a you whore. I'm kidding, nah. So
You could. You're not sure if they would be offended or pleased by that.
alright, so I sort of like she also like straightens out her dress a little bit and goes to take a seat on I'm assuming there's like more than one there's like a seat and maybe a couch as well.
Mm-hmm.
On like a separate piece of furniture than her.
Sure.
Yes, I am I don't know if your friend might have mentioned it, but
Friend?
I was friend, lover.
Lover? You mean Alden?
Yes. The kindred one, yes.
I think we're acquainted. I'm his guest.
He's my employee.
Oh, his guest. I see. Well, I'm also his guest, though I'm. Well, let's just say I don't tend to lay around on furniture, scantily clad in clothing.
Excuse me?
When I walked in the other night, I sort of saw you half undressed on the couch.
Maybe you're mistaking me for somebody else. That was not.
Well,
no, I
your
wouldn't do
appearance.
such a thing.
Well, your appearance certainly changed a little bit, but. She sort of like
appearance?
taps like.
She sounds very confused.
I wonder if I could do like a medical roll to see if maybe because right now like I don't know
This
if
would maybe
disorders are a
empathy
thing.
would be more relevant here to
Oh, shit,
determine
empathy.
if you're not sure if it's like a situation, medically this doesn't seem to be anything physically wrong with them.
Oh, I was seeing like a
besides-
mental issue, like
Oh, okay.
split personality disorder was what I was going
Sure.
for.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. You could use medicine for that. Usually, it's empathy, but for diagnosing medical conditions, you can use medicine for that. Yeah, it's weird. These dice pools sometimes they don't work, or they can be used for multiple things. But
Right. So is it composure and medicine, or is it intelligence medicine?
it would be in this case it'd be wits medicine. I think
Alright.
just for a diagnosis.
On the spot. Oh yeah, because on the spot, I'm not really taking time.
Yeah.
So that's 6 dice.
I like this picture. I'm trying to find different little ones, but just to get an image of her in my head. But I like this one.
Come on, 3 successes. All right.
Kind of like this picture. I like her eyes here. So her eyes might be green-ish.
I remember that one.
I like this one. I'm just trying to get a visual for her in my head, but I like that one for now, just to get an idea of her face. But she, you got how many successes? 3, you said?
Mm-hmm.
She has symptoms that be characteristic of what you would believe to be amnesia. So she may very well have been the same person. However, her memory seems unclear, and when you question her on it, she seems to be confused. So,
Forgive me. Perhaps I was a little bit misguided in my previous assumption. Tell me, do you remember anything that happened the last day or so?
she shakes, and so this is part of your diagnosis. She just shakes her head. No, she doesn't remember. Than the last night, she remembers. She would say the details up until the nighttime, and then she says she doesn't remember anything beyond that. So you would be able to diagnose there is in fact a hole in her memory.
I see. Well, perhaps we should get proper introduction in order. My name is Charlotte.
Um, Wendy. Who? What relation do you have to Alden? Are you also his guest, or he wasn't? I wasn't told that there would be anybody coming. I
It was
didn't.
sort of a last second. Well, you know that Alden is a lawyer, correct?
Oh, your client?
Sort of. He defended me in court, and a part of my sentence is that I am entrusted to him for the time being.
That seems strange.
Oh, it's quite strange. I honestly dislike the practice, and I think it's disgusting, but that's
There's-
just my opinion.
There's hardly any room in here for the two of us. I don't know
Yes.
how this arrangement will work.
Well, there's always sharing the same bed or couch, but I slept the night in the
She
closet.
she blushes.
Oh, please, don't tell me you think I mean like that.
Oh, of course, we'd have to leave plenty of space, but isn't it a bit improper?
Sort of, Charlotte sort of remembers all the improper things that happened to her in the hedge. Alright, now, but, she sort of shrugs. If it's that bothersome, I could always sleep in the closet again. I care much for. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the word. I care much for simplicity, not for technicalities.
Well, we'll have to discuss that with him. And, almost on cue, you see, you hear a knock at the door. Oh, I believe that's him. Do you mind?
Is she like telling me to go get it?
Yeah.
Alright, so I go over to the door and I gently open it.
Oh, are you getting, I think Alden kind of steps in. He's like, oh, are you, and he's putting an umbrella away. And, work went well. Are you getting to know each other?
I'd say yes.
He kind of looks over your shoulder at Wendy. You didn't do anything inappropriate, did you? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, good. Well, I have some business I need to attend to in my study. You girls can relax in this room.
I see.
I'll be right with you.
Hmm.
He puts some paperwork away. Kind of, you see him sorting through some books.
Alright, I'm gonna take a seat.
Quick research.
I'm gonna
He
return back to
pockets-
my seat and talk to Wendy a little bit more.
He what he does with the, you actually see him started to destroy the letter that you read, as if you would assume to destroy the evidence, because the letter made it very clear that he wasn't to speak to the prince about this, so he probably doesn't want any evidence of a conspiracy.
Smart.
So he starts destroying the letter after he's read it over a few times, and he sort of takes a seat next to you. So basically it's the three of you, and you can imagine this small kind of space. So it feels very cramped with the three of you there.
So, Wendy, where are you from?
She kind of opens her mouth to speak, and then Alden says, "Oh, I met her in a nice shop on the east side. Nice, quaint girl. Very refined for a commoner."
Interesting.
She kind of just nods slowly as if accepting what he's saying.
I don't think he's lying. So. Sorry, just give me a minute to think.
No. Rocks fall on you. You die.
Rocks fall, you die.
Oh, shit.
It's like imagine Alden just like pulls a rope, rocks fall, you die.
What the hell?
The house is now on fire. You die. I'm
I
kidding.
see. So, quick question: how did he destroy the letter?
Because they wouldn't use fire. I was gonna say he burned
Yeah.
it, but then I'm like, that'd be stupid. So he probably just crumpled it up and tore it and threw it into a trash can.
I see. So, you two are together, acquaintances.
She's living with me. There's no deeper meaning to our. What you saw last night was. He doesn't really say anything. He's like, well, what you saw last night was.
Oh,
It wasn't her. No. So there was someone else here? Well, yes and no. I have many guests. They come and they go.
oh, so you take many women into your home on a daily basis.
He kind of you can't see what I'm doing with my head, but he's like turning his head like right, left, like daily as necessary.
Oh, as necessary.
This home has seen many guests. He's quite a gentleman, opening his home to so many people. I think.
Quite so, and not asking for any repayment whatsoever. Truly, sir, you have a heart of gold then.
he chuckles slightly. He's like, yes, that is of course the case. I open my heart to those who need it, and they have we have arrangements that are made privately.
Oh, of course, you wouldn't want the public knowing anything about this, or your fellow brethren.
He narrows his eyes at you like, were you planning on telling anybody about this situation?
Come now, do you pick me for a fool?
No, you performed very well in the trial. Although, of course, if it wasn't for my presence, you might have likely been executed. So I suggest you offer me the respect of being treated as someone who has, I would say, authority over you, as the court has decided. I would rather not this get out. And any crime that is put against me will reflect badly upon you. Without my guidance, you might well be thrown out on the street or put up for trial once again without any
You can
defense.
relax, Alden. I care not for spreading the word of who you offer your home to or who you bed with. I can honestly care less.
Wendy just continues blushing. She's like, we never did anything. I don't know what you're speaking about.
Amnesia.
He kind of moves over. He kind of, moves over to Wendy. He kind of gives her a little smile and kind of pats her on the head. It's like, and you can detect this strange cadence to his voice as he speaks to her, and he says, "You're feeling a little tired, aren't you?" And she just her eyes start to flutter, and he kind of settles her down on the couch. And she kind of settles down into a sleep.
Sorry, just imagine at the last thing he just puts a thing of chloroform over her face and just gently lets her down.
Yeah.
Shh, sleep. Alright.
Sleep. Just falls over.
Womp.
Alright.
But he basically mesmerizes her into sleep and then moves back over to you. Please don't discuss these things in front of her. She is not of our blood.
Well, last I checked from what you said last night, nor am I of you.
Excuse me?
Wait, you don't remember our last session?
Well, so I.
At last session, like, he pointed out, I was like, oh, so you're different as well. Like, as in, like, he pointed out that I wasn't.
Yeah, I think he's kind of playing it off like, oh, excuse me, I don't believe I was made aware of this information. I know, of course, we're not of the same blood. I'm merely your sire by adoption, but
Alden, you're a lawyer. Would you like us to speak plainly or in riddles the whole night?
do you just want to drop your mask in front of him? Because you could just do that.
Well, I'm trying to ask. Well, I'm asking him this first.
Okay, yeah, he's like, well, I guess we should be open with each other. I am responsible for you now, after all.
And no one has any. And we will not be disturbed by outsiders, I hope.
The doors are locked, and I have a firm grasp over my domain. So I can
Very
assure
well.
you will be entering.
Wait, I'm wondering. Wait, if I reveal my mask, does my pinky promise from what we shared carry over or no?
Which promise?
Oh, I shared a promise with him. Ah, damn it! I think I made an oath last night when I told him that the girl was a hobgoblin. But he wouldn't share that information.
Yeah, I don't remember because that's why I usually like for people to write exactly what the oath.
Yeah, I should have wrote it
is.
down. Shoot, I'll rewatch the last session, alright?
But I remember you made a promise to not talk about her outside of, yeah, I think that was it. But I would say, yeah, this would extend to that, so I think it would, yeah.
Alright, so
For the sake of the host itself, I think this would apply as well.
if we were to speak plainly, I hope that you do realize that the promise we made last night must carry over to this conversation, correct?
That's fine with me. If you have something you need to speak with me secretly about, I've already been keeping plenty of secrets from the prince.
Let us be open about our secrets, son, for at least this night. And as she does that, she sort of like reaches up. I'm guessing like I can flavor how I take off my mask
Yes.
any way I want, right?
Yes, you actually do get to flavor how it is removed from your form. Like for Eravak, it just sort of, we see it, the metamorphosis, but for you, it might be something else,
All right. So it's kind of, this is going to look a little bit weird, but essentially what she does is she essentially like places like, as she does this, her nails seem to like grow a little bit longer, which seem a little bit out of place if like they weren't an inch longer a second ago. And she sort of like forms like a shank with her hand, and she sort of like, almost like she goes to penetrate her forehead.
Mm-hmm.
But as like they penetrate, an audible crack is heard. And then all of a sudden it looks as if her forehead just shattered in glass. And as she does that, then she slowly drags her hand down her body. And as she does this, more of her form appears to crack. And essentially, it just seems to slowly shatter. And then when she finally reaches like the base of her stomach, she sort of snaps her fingers and the shredded glass sort of disappears. And then sitting in front of him is a woman with very long, overly long, dull seafoam hair. Like, I'd say it looks like almost like her usual hair color, but it's extremely dulled down. Her hair seems to now, instead of reaching past her shoulder blades, it seems almost to reach her waist or even her buttocks. Her fingers are now very long. They don't look they look sort of the strange part about them is that though they're very elongated, they look sort of elegant, as if they were made to like play piano or wield very fine
instruments.
Equipment. Yeah, instrument equipment, whatever works, I guess. And her skin is almost like paper, as in like well, actually back then it was in parchment, but it's a very pale white, like today's sort of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And her face just looks sad. Her cheeks look hollow, as if she's emaciated, as if like it literally almost looks like as if a kindred sucked all the blood out of her body and left her as like basically an emaciated skeleton almost.
Right.
He gets like some. It's hard to see, but you can see some of the angles. He could definitely see all the knuckles in her hands. And if she were without shoes, like he would be able to just see almost basically bone.
It's worth noting that you do have to spend another glamour for this as well. So
It's worth it for the flavor.
you're running out. But how much? Yeah, how much glamour do you have now?
I have 3 glamour. I have to feed soon.
Very nice.
Probably next session.
You actually do have there are significant consequences if you reach 0, so that you do not want that to happen.
I'll probably go and feed after this little scene. We'll do next session probably.
Next session might be better.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll just assume that he doesn't freak out and try to kill you. Let's start with that. He takes it with a bit of shock at first. He's like, "What in the world? This is unlike anything I've seen." And as you explain maybe a bit more, do you explain enough so that he can understand like your situation, or do you just sit there like as a
I'm not gonna just blatantly explain like say what I am, but I'll start with she sort of like gently begins like to crack her knuckles as if like stretching them. That's a little bit better. But do you remember that letter you read, the one that you recently destroyed?
He kind of his eyes are wide. How do you know about that?
Well, I glanced at it after I woke up. But
all right.
that I read it is not really important. The important part is what it said about, I believe, Mr. Roland's daughter, how he was taken by a fae. Well, yeah, he was taken by a fae.
They actually prefer.
Oh, Zay. Oh, Zay was.
Either way, it doesn't make a difference. Or no, I meant to say they. I don't know. Did I say they? I mean, I meant they. So they go by they now.
Right. How their child was taken by a fae and tortured.
That is information is questionable. We don't have proof, but
she for the first time in a very long time, her dull face turns to almost a Cheshire grin, as in her lips seem to almost curl into a smile. Well, Alden, here's your proof in the flesh. I hope you enjoy how it looks. I almost hated when it happened to me.
Are you the one who took it? I think he's reaching for a lamp or a vase or something Are you the one who took Alistair? He's very confused.
She lets out a short laugh. No, I was taken. I was a human once. Alden.
I find that hard to believe. You look completely...
What the fate? Well, it's rather simple, really, if you'd like me to explain.
All right.
The Fae have their little fun. They pluck individuals from this world, and they bring them back to their own abode. And they have, she sort of raises up her bony fingers and making quotation marks, fun with them.
I see. So, are you saying that Alistair was also a victim?
Oh yes, though his change was not as prominent as mine. As after all, you saw my sister, didn't you?
I did. Yes.
That is what I would look like today if I was not abducted.
But I don't... What does your sister have to do with this situation?
Oh, she's simply an example.
Ah, okay. I see. Sorry, he's putting his hand on his head. This is not something that I was prepared to deal with today.
Then rather than deal with it, just keep it tucked away in your mind in case you might need it.
Why has the court forced this upon me? You are not even of our blood. If they knew this, you would be killed.
Oh, I quite agree with you. But I do think that they would not approve of you betting a hobgoblin or keeping them in your abode.
How do you know? He's like, how do you know about that too?
Obviously, I know my own kind. I lived around them for, well, let's see, I believe my time in the hedge was still really a blur, really, but it was about 5 decades, I believe.
5. That's
Yes, Alden, 5 decades of glorious torture. Would you like me to describe? Actually, I should not go into detail about that.
I don't understand. Is she one of you? I don't.
No, she is different. How do I put it? Hobgoblins are sort of the common people in the hedge. They could be slaves, merchants, whatever they want, really. Changelings, like myself, are
Oh,
those who.
she is no slave. Believe me. She has a way of acting on her own.
Did she seduce you?
You don't have to be so blunt about it.
Well,
Very rude.
my apologies. When you're trapped for 50 years,
this is the Victorian era, so like talking openly about this is like.
Well, you have to understand, like she's trying to say, like you have to understand that when I'm being trapped for 15 years and learning to speak so blatantly about medical things, your empathy sort of dies with you, you know?
I would not want to be in your situation.
I doubt anyone would be.
So I don't see any need to answer your question. Her relationship with me is private. He's doing it for a lawyer, like there's no plead the fifth, but he's like, I'm basically not telling you what I don't have to.
Fair enough. But after all, I believe her relationship with you is very little to do with what's actually going on.
I can't deny that she's staying in my home, but anything else that you might be inferring is completely within your imagination.
Like, she sort of shrugs. Like, I don't really care that much. I'm more concerned with the whole, your brethren trying to force war on the Fae.
That is specifically Roland's view. The prince doesn't support any sort of action. We were speaking about it recently. The specifics of this treaty.
The treaty?
In the medieval times, there were treaties laid out to divide the territories between the different. The word I would use would be factions.
Oh.
They were very hesitant against us, or rather our ancestors, and how they would claim territory and use their kind as blood sacrifice. So they formed an alliance against our kind to keep us out. And those hostilities have subsided, but the prejudice remains. If we are seen as invading upon their territory, then...
Oh, we'll have another war on our hands. Lovely, lovely.
That's not something that the prince wants to have to deal with, and I agree with him personally, but the fact that a clear crime was committed against our kind, I can't exactly forgive that either. If you choose to support Roland and his crusade, then feel free, but I will not support you in it.
Alden, you are a lawyer. I am a doctor. I care little for fighting. I have my job, and I do it well.
Good. I'm happy to know that you have the intelligence enough to stay out of this matter.
Oh, certainly I do after I was involved in the war with the Fae before. Fae. You see, many of us are made with a purpose. I was made to be an excellent doctor. And by excellent, I mean very, very good at what I do. to the point where most of my practices will most likely transcend what you see in local hospitals and the like.
Quite a talented one you are then.
Yep, one might say I was quite the trophy to my master. Ugh. I pray for the day I no longer have to remember his face. But enough about the horrors of the fetch, of the hedge. So, do you plan on continuing your quiet life here with your friend and your cases and like?
Well, it's very hard for me to sit idly by knowing that there are these, as you say, fae walking among us. The sheriff has spoken at length about how they're a threat to our society and how they should be purged, how they're nothing but tricksters and liars and evildoers and devils. But I
Is true
believe
for the most part.
I believe she was just speaking out of some literature she reads very frequently. I assumed it was just folklore and fairy tale, but before my eyes now I see a creature that is beyond all of my imagining. So I am not entirely sure what I should be doing. I was perfectly prepared to sit and live the rest of my life and enjoy the pleasures of a simple existence. You can see him stop before he says anything more intimidating. Enjoy the pleasures of a simple existence. But now there are greater forces at play, and the best thing to do in this kind of case is to remain as neutral as possible. We can't afford to shake the boat.
That is smart. After all, as you kindred have different bloodlines, correct?
That is accurate.
The Fae also have their own, though they call them courts.
Courts.
Yes. I will not go into overly detail and bore you with hours of long lecturing, but essentially, there are 4 courts and then those who do not align themselves with courts. I'm not so sure that they stand. Well, the last I saw, they were all at war with one another, so. Probably not the best idea to pick a fight with them right away.
Are you saying that there is no one that we could ally with on the other side?
Oh, on the contrary, I'm certain they could, but as you said, they are tricksters.
Do you know anything of this princess that was mentioned within?
Do I know anything about Princess?
That would be a intelligence and composure roll.
Oh boy, I'm tempted to use willpower again. Why not?
Wait, your intelligence is low, but you're a doctor.
No, my intelligence is a 4, but I want more dice, because I'm a piece of shit.
I think you could do fine.
Alright, fine, I'll just roll 7. You know what? Every single time I use willpower, I usually get bad luck. So you know what? Let's just go with 7 and see how it goes. If I botch this roll, I'm blaming
7's
you.
pretty good. I don't know what you're complaining about.
Because I rolled 10 dice and I got 1 success, Nova.
That's perfectly reasonable, though. You only need 1.
I got 4 success. Oh my god.
Oh yeah,
I just
I'm just like, I make this the worst possible. It's like, yes, you're intimately familiar with. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I had sex with her in like the Backstreet Boys. Hell yeah.
So you do, the reason why you know a lot about Princess is because you studied her as a potential threat. The war. Yes, you were specifically when you, like, for example, you know that when you were in when you left the hedge while you were with that soldier, you were aware of her territory, her domain. You were within her domain at that point of time, behind enemy lines, so to speak. And you know that you were at war against her, and based on the propaganda that you were given about her, you know that she is essentially heavily interested in keeping slaves She is ruthless and not bloody. She doesn't engage in open warfare. She doesn't like to engage in fighting. She's very about civility and grace and manners, and about conducting things in a royal way. Thus, her title. But she is considered a threat because she is sort of a highly ingenious schemer. She has resources, and she has come from a bloodline of sorts that is very potent in Fey society. And she was dormant for a long time, but she has recently resurfaced and is rebuilding her empire. The domain that she has is fairly small, but she's managed to secure a lot of power within that domain. So she's not exactly the kind of thing that you would consider a threat, but she is sort of like a figure where it's like, well, you don't want to mess with her because she has power.
And she's not aligned with the court, correct?
So gentry aren't actually affiliated with courts, but she isn't affiliated because the courts are actually designed. I made this mistake originally, was that the true Fae aren't assigned to courts because they are the courts are a changeling thing. They're designed to combat the Fae. So essentially, but she does have alignments toward courts that are unknown to you. Courts that are strange and foreign and unfamiliar. Her royal ties are ancient. And whatever court she belongs to or whatever affiliation she has is more haphazard than it would be for anyone who would say they're affiliated with summer or Seelie or Unseelie or winter or any season. She doesn't follow those traditions. She is entirely not unaffiliated. She affiliates herself with others of let's say, less sanity, those who are of the moon court.
All right, I see.
And her royal sigil involves the symbols of diamond and heart, which don't have any modern meaning, but
And that's why the game's called the Heart Chronicle Queen shit.
But they, as you were told by your informants, that her bloodline is ancient, and those symbols had meaning in the ancient prehistory of before time. So she is very powerful. At least that is what you are told. Now you, and again, I'm giving you a lot of information because 4 successes, would probably be more intimately aware that her power is waned. So she has sort of propped herself up as a very powerful ruler, but you're aware that she is at a moment of weakness. And even when you were in her territory, she didn't, act immediately against you. So her reach isn't as powerful as others believe it is. So there's your little info dump.
A little info dumps a whole dump truck worth of information.
But you would have been given a lot of information about her because of the war. So
all right,
she's effectively like Hitler. So like you'd want to be informed about her, movements and her presence and her backstory and such.
Right, so Charlotte sort of presses 2 fingers to her temples and sort of rubs. Oh yes, princess, the one I heard mention in the letter, Veve. She is, how would one describe it? A twisted one. She is about as ruthless as the best torture around, but her mannerisms seem more ladylike, given her name.
Why would she kidnap one of ours?
Oh. Of course, how could I forget? One of her favorite luxuries is to have slaves and playthings.
That's inhumane.
I do agree. She would do what happened to me out of her enjoyment.
We can't keep slaves. That's wrong now. Like,
For
Erebok's just like,
me,
oh, good.
You know, it truly is inhuman when a vampire sings.
for example, I was created with a purpose. I was supposed to save lives. I'm supposed to be a doctor. Princess, however, creates things for fun. If I do recall my informants correctly, she's quite ruthless, and I do truly pity the one that was captured by her. But I'm assuming I know which one it is now.
I saw Alistair at the trial. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with him. Why do you
Oh.
look so different? And he seems to be the same.
All those who are affected by the hedge wear a mask. And just like how I revealed my mask to you, they also have their own little mask of their own. Though
I see.
though I can assure you they're not as twisted as I am, luckily enough for them.
Well, I think that it's necessary if you're going to live here under my protection that we form some sort of agreement.
And what agreement would that be?
How exactly you're going to work under me as my child with this sort of conditioning.
Condition is a good word for it.
He's basically offering you a bargain in terms of Changeling. So
I'm debating on like postponing the bargain in the sense of like
we could postpone it. I think that's reasonable. You want to think about it?
I'm thinking about her saying, how about I go out tonight and I get myself a proper feeding and then we'll discuss a bargain at a later date.
You feed?
Yes, I feed, much like your kind does, but
On blood.
no, I feed off emotions.
That is interesting. Would
Show
you
you
mind if I observe?
I see no problem with that if you promise not to tell.
We already agreed that that was my word.
Of course, just making sure.
So my question is, do you want to be in the next scene or do you want to fade out from here?
What's
Because
the next scene?
I could imagine you meeting up with Erebok if you'd like, but if you'd rather not, that's up to you.
I'm perfectly fine with that, sure.
Okay.
Can I trot the ball just do my assignment tomorrow before
Okay.
class? Whatever.
Okay. I'm just worried about you, that's all. Want to make sure I don't ruin anybody's lives.
I ruined my own life, thank you very much.
Fair enough. All right. So he kind of whispers to Wendy as she's unconscious or asleep, like, okay, don't, whatever. He's not like giving her orders like subconsciously or whatever, but he's basically just making sure she's all right. And leaves her and locks the, making sure that nobody can get in.
Oh yeah, as I walk out, I'm curious. What did you do to her exactly?
She was tired. That you didn't notice? She was exhausted.
Really, she seemed quite lively when I was talking to her.
Maybe it was the coffee.
I thought it was hot chocolate, Nova. I'm kidding. Hi.
I think it is hot chocolate, but he's like, oh, it was the
did you see
coffee.
him sweat? It's like, how are you sweating? You're a vampire. It's like, shit.
Shit. No, he's like, she was tired. Maybe she was just trying to stay awake for my sake, but
Understood. I'll keep it in mind. Just like jots down some sort of kindred
I raped your brain, okay?
She sort of like scribbles down her book like some sort of kindred suggestion.
Mind screw. I think you're just right in the margin, like brainwashing. Question mark.
Brainwashing. Poison. What could be the answer?
I
Science, tell me.
I feel like you might assume it's like something that's like plausible scientifically rather than just jumping to magic. Like I could actually believe that. Like
Yeah, like I could imagine like her thinking of like maybe it's some sort of hypnosis.
hypnotic suggestion, which is actually accurate, but it's like in this weird way. You're like maybe he is just using like psychological something or other to convince her that she's tired, and then she falls asleep. But you don't assume it's like a power of any kind. Okay, so we kind of fade in on this new scene. So I'm wondering if Lisa would want to go with Eravok out
To feed?
to feed. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So then the three of you all sort of well, Alden's there, and also Casey's there. Casey is the adopted sire for Eravok, and Mikhail can be with you or not. That's up to you. But everyone else is bringing their sires. He doesn't really want to go out, but if you wanted to come with you, he could.
Well, it's his goal. I wouldn't mind his presence.
Okay. So I think it's one of these situations where all your sires go with you, but then once you're all together, you just kind of all meet up with each other.
Dad, I want to feed on this one, Dad. Come on, let's go, Dad. Come on.
So like all your sires are with you, but once you kind of meet up, it just becomes about the three of you, because you're the actual characters. So, so like the situation is, I think you'd be near a subway kind of station where there's like a train kind of underground where Eravok is.
Yes.
And as you
Subway eat fresh.
as you make it into the subway station, you see Alden kind of point out to Charlotte because he can sense that they're nearby. So he kind of moves down into the subway.
I would put on my scalpel.
And the three of you meet in the subway, and you see this steam train kind of underneath the ground moving. And as it passes, the three of you are then put into frame as a group. And you, Charlotte, just as a reminder, you see Eravok as his draconic form, standing beside Casey, who just sort of is there sort of watching the train pass. And then once it passes, the three of you are left sort of in the dark. And Casey just sort of waves to Alden, and Mikhail is just sort of standing by himself in the dark. And the three of you, what are you doing?
Okay. Well, I will go look for food.
Okay. Are you looking on the tracks? Are you looking? Would you want to enter the train to look for people? What would you prefer? Because you know that there would be animals down here, but you don't want to feed on animals. So the best way for you to find a person would probably be to.
I will go on the train.
Train. Okay. I'm assuming the two of you would follow then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason why Charlotte wouldn't.
I'm gonna find a homeless person to feed off their woes.
Better idea. I actually like that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so Charlotte lets them kind of board the train. You're looking for someone who's very sad. Makes sense to me.
Like hella sad. Like I spilled my juice box sad.
So Casey gets on the train with you, and Mikhail goes on the train, and Alden also gets on the train, and he sees that you're not getting on, and he sort of steps off and wonders where you're going.
I beckon him, and then like me and Alden are alone again now.
Right. Yes.
That dragon probably doesn't have much to fear because, well, he's quite he's enthralled to your brethren, hasn't he? She sort of says like as like the car begins to move along.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, you haven't heard of Avarok? I just butchered that name, didn't I?
Aravok?
Aravok, and is displayed at the dinner with the prince.
He shakes his head. He's like, well, I've heard rumors, but
What rumors?
rumors of a dragon appearing at the prince's dinner.
That sounds about right. Yes, for all intents and purposes, I suppose he could be called a dragon. But come, you said you wanted to watch me feed, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to let them have a scene.
Oh,
Just so that just so that we can
For
have
all intents and purposes, you can.
yeah, I'm just gonna I just say like I'm searching for like
Yeah.
a meal while they're doing
If you
this
want,
scene.
yeah, so we could do that. So you're searching for someone, they can have a scene. I was hoping the three of you would be together, but
Hell no, I don't want to be near the dragon.
right,
Oh.
I remember that now. You don't want to be near
Mainly
someone.
because it's like, oh, you're in good with the people who hate me. Please stay away from me.
So on that, before I move, I actually do want to have an idea of what, does Aravok feel the same way like about Charlotte, or does he not necessarily like care about her in any way? Because you recognize that she's also Fae, like you, because her skin is
He is indifferent to what's.
indifferent. Okay.
It's like he didn't exactly, petition for a death. It's like, yeah, just give her a shaft thrashing and that's it.
Right. Right. She doesn't appear to have been thrashed very harshly from what you can tell of her face. So if anything, you might be disappointed that she wasn't punished.
I mean, like, I imagine I look quite drained of energy at this point because I'm only at like.
But he was thinking there might be
Okay.
bruises, You don't. Like, he's waiting to see that if you're whipped or something, but he doesn't.
Wow,
He doesn't see that. So he
I
might.
am a fragile being. Leave me alone.
He might be disappointed. If. He might be disappointed if nothing else that you weren't beaten further. But regardless, the two of you are on a train, and there don't seem to be many people on the train at this time. It's not very late at night actually, so it'd be early in the night. Maybe there would be people traveling through the city, of different types, of different, not ethnicities, but of different classes is the word I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for. So maybe there's common people riding the train, workers riding the train home. There are people who are more upper class who are riding at the front part of the train. So you have, it's a buffet for you guys. You get to choose, pick and choose what you would like.
Look at all these innocent people. Get up, kids.
I really like trains, by the way. So I'm definitely imagining like this long train car with different sorts of people. The back cars have the poorer common folk, and then you have, it scales up. And the people who are more higher class, they actually have, more amenities, like they have more comfortable chairs and such.
Aravok is, gonna head towards the upper class.
Okay. Does Lisa follow?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So both of you head towards the upper class. Both of you seem to fit in within that space because of Aravok's sort of clothing. I found this is an interesting photo. I actually found this. Hold on, I'll try to send it. These are like sort of what the interiors would look like. I'm not sure if these are theoretical or if they're literal, but very cool sort of curved cars, tubular sort of design. So you can just imagine something like that. These private sort of rooms and little cars.
Traveling on the Hyperloop?
More or less. It's a small subway car.
Yeah.
So you move into the upper class, and they have private rooms and sort of servants kind of moving between the different cars. So if you wanted to actually get towards someone, you need to get into one of their rooms.
Oh, so they're in private cars, are they?
Correct.
Can I listen for any discussions going on in various?
Yeah, they're having a discussion about recent street violence. There was apparently a fight that happened the other night. People are getting kind of nervous, concerned about things of that nature.
Oh Christ!
Oh, haven't you heard the police? They've been apprehending those street gangs. There was a fight in the street the other night. I heard that people were killed. Oh, simply brutal. Simply brutal.
Oh.
That's why we're not to mingle with the commoners. They are violent and irrational. I agree. And they're just having, this conversation. There's two people in a private car.
Aravok, overhearing this, sort of sneers, but quickly becomes some form of, almost whimsical grin. It's like, he's found some perfect targets. Absolute bigots. The scum of the earth, the serpents.
Yes. So how do you plan to proceed?
He's going to shoulder charge their door.
Okay. Cool. Make me a strength and brawl check, please.
Strength and brawl. Okey-dokey.
Go look up structure real quick. Do you have any merits or anything to help you with breaking objects? I'm just making sure because I'm not sure if you do or not.
Let's see. No, I don't exactly
Okay.
have.
So when
unless I decided to claw through the door and give myself
right, that's what I'm asking. So are you gonna claw through the door, or are you just going to just charge into it?
Well, I was considering ramming it, but yeah.
Okay. You
I could use the claws, I guess.
Right. I think that would automatically apply. But essentially you bash
I got to
yourself.
roll 2 more dice in that case.
Wait. Oh, because claw. Well, wait. Why would it be 2?
Because I got
the plus 2 in claws.
Main and a specialty for claws.
Plus 2 in claws. Right. So yeah, 2 more dice. Then go ahead. I just think it'd be inherent. It'd be part of your because lethal main you get automatically. So you could just add 2. Oh, there you go. Nice. That'll help.
There we go. 4 successes.
What you do manage to do here.
I was going to slash through the door like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. So I was going to say you bash in. So what happens is you actually bash into the door and there's a loud thud. You don't actually break through it immediately. So you switch to sort of trying to slice through it with your claws, and the door starts to tear itself open. You don't break through it immediately, but you tear open like a huge chunk of the door to the point where it's basically inoperable. Like you just tear a huge hole into it to where you could step through. You just rip it. You just rip it through, and
here's Johnny.
And the people on the other side, you can't step through immediately, so it's not like you didn't completely succeed. So they have some time to act. they start scrambling, to get up, and they don't necessarily have weapons on them, but they have like maybe a cane or an umbrella, and so they're going to employ some bartitsu or something, to try to throw you off.
Now I'm thinking of that pic I was laughing at in the Changeling book, where the dude was like trying to fight off fucking Cthulhu with an umbrella.
Yeah, so they grab one of them grabs an umbrella, one of them grabs a cane, and they're clearly master practitioners of gentleman style fighting. So they jump on you like no, I'm kidding. They prepare sort of improvised weapons and kind of
What the fuck is happening?
and they prepare to defend themselves against you, because all they see, by the way, so in the mask, they see you just with your bare hands tear through the door. If that makes sense. So they see you rip the door open with your bare hands.
That is horrifying. Wait a minute.
And
Holy shit.
They prepare and they're like, look, it's a mongrel.
Move along. I am just a very big black man tearing a door apart with my bare hand. Nothing weird about this.
I'm sorry, but I just like, yo, Bill, look at that guy tearing out through our door. Let's call him a fucking mongrel. Alrighty, let's go, Jeff.
Must be the same guy who thought attacking the Dragonborn was a good idea.
So this is happening. Lisa, what are you doing when you see him tear through the door? By the way, there are servants kind of moving to figure out what's going on, like to try to stop you as well. So there's people behind you that are also moving around.
So just to clarify, why did he do that? How did that happen exactly?
So you can't see beyond the mask either. So you just literally see him bash into the door and then rip it open with his hand.
Okay, so I approach and I say, okay, what is going on? I asked that to Aravok, by the way.
Yeah.
I wonder if did the microphone just pick up that thunder? That would have been awesome.
Yeah, I heard it. I thought it was just muffled. If that's thunder, that's scary.
Aravok, what's going on? What are you doing?
There is a bit of a thunder you hear outside of like a thud, like a whoosh.
I am taking care of some forked-tongued serpents.
They start getting into stances like they've studied some kind of weird, gentleman's martial arts, and they're preparing to engage you in combat.
You think you can best me with a weapon like that?
How uncivilized. He thinks that he can wrestle with us? Well, show him what we learned at that community school.
Pitiful half-men.
Aravok, if you wish to fight with them, I will not stop you. But please don't kill them.
I think they're telling you to step away. Aye, lass, step away. He's a monster of a man. Don't touch him. He'll get you sick.
Sick.
I have a slightly disgusted expression. Yeah, I will really not stop from you from fighting them. Don't kill them, but you can hurt them a bit. I say that. I whisper that to him, by the way.
Right.
And
I will squeeze what I need from their scrawny little necks.
I'm gonna make this a down and dirty combat, so we're gonna resolve it in a roll. But
I step aside to let him do it because.
Okay. So all I need from you, Aravok, is I need you to roll me And even if you fail this, it doesn't necessarily mean, you might still get, successes and beat them because you're mostly just doing this for glamour's sake. But it's more about if you can, how it resolves positively for you or not.
Yes, I'm trying to put the fear of God into them.
So what this is going to be is basically you're going to make whatever roll that you would normally make. So in this case, I would assume it's strength brawl, and then you get your bonuses as normal. And then we don't use defense. So it's just going to be contested. And I'm going to give them an advantage because there's 2 of them. And they have weapons. So they aren't completely helpless here. 1, 2. It'd be, yeah. And then 1, and then, okay, yeah, that'll be good enough. I have a pool now. I have a dice pool. I'm ready to go. You have yours, I assume. And then, actually, you know what? I'll have them spend willpower on this as well. Actually, no, they wouldn't have willpower. They're not important.
They're not important. They're bigots.
Okay.
Seriously, kick their ass.
Only 2
I
successes
ate
off 10 dice.
2 successes? Okay, let me see what happens.
He calls down the thunder.
Okay. So this is interesting to me because you tied. I like this. So what I'm going to say is...
Yeah, Harrowbuck's still busy trying to wrestle his way through this door, so he's a little preoccupied.
So you're wrestling your way through the door. I'm gonna say that
what did they make this thing out of?
you do get 2 glamour, so I'll give you that right now. Of course, so you do get that. You do get 2 glamour. So make sure you mark that first.
Okay, so it puts me up to 7. Shit.
And as they strike you, you realize that their weapons, they don't harm you nearly at all in sort of your mortal your immortal form, like your...
There we go. That's Harrowbuck trying to break through the fucking door.
Your scales and your actual mane is not damaged in any way, but outwardly you appear to have some bruising. So you're going to take, I'll say, 2 bashing just from being roughed up as they kind of stab and
bashing
and kind of...
What is that? Is that out of health? Or?
Yeah. So just 2 slashes. They kind of just smack and beat at you, and then you just probably take one of them and throw them against the wall, and you can take your glamour from them at that point. And once that happens, that one of them, that you harvest from, they back down, and the other one just starts calling for help. And so you see that there are some servants that come and try to pull you back out of the room. So that exchange, you technically get what you want, but you are also kind of pulled away in the process. And they force you...
Fuck that noise. He's going to try and throw them off.
Okay. So you're going to have to combat them then. That's going to be a whole nother deal. So you're going to try to throw off these servants now and escalate the situation. Okay, so it's going to be the same pool. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll give them an extra because there's still this guy here. So it'll be... Yep. And then 1 more. Okay. That is... Ooh, that's pretty good. How many successes did you get?
3.
3? Okay. You managed to tie them again. So this one guy with the cane, he comes up, he gives you a hard, like as these two train attendants are holding you, he gives you a hard boom, smack across the head, rattles you a little bit. You take another 2 bashing. But then after that, he you kind of you throw off these people as if they're made of, as if they're dolls. You just throw one of them across the train car. The other manservant goes flying. The one in front of you, what do you do to him?
What the tuxedo dude?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the guy that actually hit you with the cane.
He's actually going to reach out and snatch the cane from him.
Okay, sure.
And take it in both hands, and then he's going to bring it around the back of his head and snap it around the back of his neck.
The man is. I'm gonna check to see, integrity here to see if he freaks out. I'm give him. He gets a few dice for this. He would get like a lot. Let's say. He gets a lot of dice for this, but I'll still roll anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll give him a penalty because this is pretty intense. You're using like supernatural strength. So I'll say 6 works. Yeah, let's go with 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, pretty good. He becomes a hero. No, I'm kidding. This is a beast.
He can't become a hero.
Did I stumble into Bruce Wayne's carriage?
No, so I'm like, he actually takes this rather well. He's like, oh, this is a real challenge. I also studied boxing, and he's like putting up his hands. He's bluffing, but he's like putting up his hands. He doesn't want to appear like weak in front of his peers. So, he's challenging you. He's like, come on. Is that all you have?
So you believe you're a master in one of those who-flung dungs, do you?
He's like, at the same time as he's putting up this fake stance, he's like looking around for help.
Erebog's gonna reel back, and he's gonna throw a straight punch at this guy's face. He has big fucking hand in his face.
So same roll, and we keep tying, so there's no firm result, so we'll keep going.
Well, I gotta get something off.
Yeah.
10d10 eventually.
Yeah. So we'll go again. He's gonna spend. You can't spend anything, so it's just gonna keep going, and he gets help because
that's a little better.
There are people around who are helping him, so he's not completely alone. He doesn't have a weapon though, so I'll probably take it away from him. I'll go with that. Let's see. How many successes did you get?
4.
4. Okay, yeah, no, he's probably toast. I'll roll one more. Okay, yeah, no. So you completely trounce him this time. So he tries to block, right? So what I imagine is he tries to block your claw when you bring your arm forward, and his arms just get torn, blood everywhere. Lisa's gonna need to make a frenzy check. Or not friend. I don't think you're not hungry, so I don't think you need to make a frenzy. But
does 4 vitae counts as hungry?
No. So I don't know if you open. I think you still take. You can choose if you want a frenzy or not. In this case, but you do see an open wound. There's blood flying everywhere.
I would rather not.
Okay, so you're not provoked in this case, but you do see it. So your beast is like nudging you, like, hey, blood, get blood. But you're not like in a situation where you have to like freak out and do whatever it says. But you're like, you take notice of it, and your kindred senses are like, ooh, blood, cool, blood, I like it. And but you don't actually have this moment of immediate loss of control. So you might need to make a willpower check, but you won't, cause frenzy if you fail.
Okay, but I will get a condition if I fail, right?
I would say so, yeah. Basically, that's how it would go. I don't think you'd fall into frenzy, but you'd still need to make a willpower.
Seriously, guys, stop making shit that cause me to frenzy.
Rawr. Vampire. You're a vampire.
Yeah, but why is it always the other players who cause me to frenzy?
And then if you haven't rolled yet, it would be -1, I'd say, here, because wound.
Okay, so that would be resolve 2 plus composer 3 -1, so that would be 4 dice.
Yes.
One success.
Very nice. So you don't lose control. You're able to decide, okay, I don't want to feed off this guy right now. And you don't have to take a condition. So you're definitely in control of yourself, but you feel the beast kind of lashing out at you from the inside, like, hey, blood. But you're like, no, let's wait a bit. So you're kind of holding off. So that's the moment we see from your perspective. So I'll continue. Blood kind of dripping from his arms as he's flung onto the floor, and he's like screaming. And the other two servants move to restrain you, but you're much too strong. You completely avoid them just from your brute size, and you're able to move as you wish through the corridor or do what you wish further. If you want to feed from his fear, I'll allow that, but since you're Autumn Court, you don't get a bonus or pain or whatever you wish to do. I'll allow you to feed again.
Wait, I'm Autumn Court? I thought I was Court less.
Yeah, exactly. I said you're not Autumn Court, so you don't get a bonus from fear. I said you didn't get a bonus. That's what I said.
Yeah.
So I'll let you feed from this person because they're technically a separate person.
Mm-hmm.
So you got how many? You got 3 successes on there or 4? You said, right?
4.
Okay, so you can. How much glamour are you missing?
What's that?
How much
3.
glamour are you missing? Oh yeah, so you would get all of it back then, because you would get the 3 back. Yeah. So you get your glamour back. You feel energy. You feel energized by you suck the pain and the frustration and the fear out of him, and you feel empowered by this raw emotion that's dripping from him. You just take it in, and you feel the power that you're exerting over him, and you feel that emotion as it comes into you.
Miserable maggots. You're nothing without the common man.
The man's just moaning on the ground like in pain.
Can I pretend to come to help him and discreetly try to drink a bit of the blood on the ground?
Sure, you could do that. Are you drinking from him or the blood that's on the ground?
The blood on the ground.
Sure, you could probably get a vitae just from drinking that blood.
I think it's possible, but only if the blood has been really recent.
Right, it's recent. I'm just saying there wouldn't be a lot of blood. So if you wanted to get more blood, you'd have to feed from him. But if you're just licking off the ground, then that would be a vitae for you. Yeah, you could get that back.
Okay, well, I will approach to try to help him, and I will try to discreetly lick the ground.
Okay, so you can get a vitae just from that.
Okay, do I have to make a roll so they won't notice?
I'll say no. They're paying more attention to Eravok at this point,
Okay.
trying to catch him, but they fail completely, and he's able to.
I get one vitae.
Do as he wishes.
Okay, that's still good.
So I was just watching the clip that you sent of the guy flying through the.
Eravok failing at busting through the door.
Okay, so while Lisa's on the floor licking the blood, like a cat, what is Eravok doing? Are you just gonna get off the train when they stop, or are you gonna do anything else? Like, what's your mode of action here?
He's going to sort of glare at them, and it's like, Mend your ways, or I will be back. And he's just sort of going to step back through the hole and saunter down the hall. Once the train stops, he will step off. But yeah,
I'm just imagining the two guys being like, "Oh, who is that? Oh, don't you know? He's the Black Avenger."
he's the Black Avenger.
So,
But they allow you to step off the train mostly out of fear and leave you alone after that point. But they're very concerned about your presence.
Now, you wished to know what that was about. He asks, glancing at Lisa.
oh, you are telling this to me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, based from what I heard them say, I suppose they threw a racist insult at you.
It is required that I feed off raw emotion.
Oh. So you needed to trigger emotion in them so you could feel.
That is correct. I merely picked them because they had it coming.
I see.
Hey, Nova.
Yes.
Can I do my feeding thing at the beginning of next session?
Sure.
Because I think I can do this thing IRL now for a little bit.
If you just want to make a roll real quick, I'm okay with that.
Oh, well, I kind of wanted to repeat out with Alden because I know that he wanted to spectate and such.
Oh, sure. Okay. I'll let you go for now then.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys. Sorry for leaving.
Cool.
Oh,
I need to give you beats. But I'll do that. I'll
I'll
PM
talk
you
to you in
about
PMs.
that.
I'm just like, it's
PM.
going to be...
Sure.
Soon.
I'll talk to you about that later.
So should I make a scene to feed as well?
How much vitae do you need?
Right now I am at 5 on 10. If you think that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're not hungry, but it would help.
Yeah,
I don't think you need to though. We can do it next session for sure, I think.
Okay, as you wish.
I do have plenty of things I need to do with Alistair. He still needs to. He hasn't fed yet.
Okay.
So you might be able to do that together. It might be easier to arrange that way.
Okay, so I guess the session ends here.
For the most part, I think you would meet up with your sires, and then at that point, the session would sort of fade out as we watch the train depart in the distance. Let me give you guys beats though, because I owe you that much. Let me grab those.
Just busting through the door.
That was cool. I did everything I wanted to do this session, so I feel pretty good about it.
Come on, he's not a bad guy. He went out and sought out bigots.
That's fair. I don't think that you did anything horribly wrong. I mean, they're going to think it's bad, but I think from your own perspective, you're completely justified. Oh, do you have willpower? Because that would clarify for your you would get willpower back from your thread, I think.
From warrior thread.
Wasn't? Oh wait, no, your needle then was your hatred.
I hate for human ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you need willpower, or are you full? Oh yeah, you.
Yes, I do after using the pledge thing.
Right. So yeah, you would get that back.
So that tops me up as well. So now I'm topped up in glamour and will.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good. Okay, so
though I'm a little battered from canes and umbrellas.
Yeah, those will go away. You'll be fine. Those heal pretty quickly, I think. But I think I'm gonna pick up later, so those won't heal immediately. I'm checking your aspirations first while as I open these up. And I have to go to where Lottie is. There we go. Okay, I'm checking aspirations now. So I'll start with Erebach. Your new aspirations that we decided on were... Well, I have to find them now. I wrote them. Where are they? Pledge.
Study under Casey.
Right.
Determine my role within Motley Haven.
Right. So my question then would be for you: do you feel like you've for the second one? Do you feel like you've helped sort of determine your role with this, or are you still unsure?
I still don't think he's found a defined role. No.
Okay.
I mean, he's had a chat with Alistair about roles, and he hasn't really spoken much to Lisa or anyone else about it.
This one is supposed to count for the first one, though. That was the point of the scene, so you'll get a beat for that, and then a beat for participating. So there's those two. Conditions, blah blah. Fail rolled. You already marked those. End of session. Okay. You didn't take lethal, so that's fine. For Lisa, let me check yours. So let's see. Your aspirations are your for your fiance, it doesn't count as a beat, but you did make progress toward it. It's going to come up in the future, in the near future.
Okay.
Collect information about changelings. Yes, you did that 100%, absolutely. And then the learning more about Roland, you did that as well.
Oh, so I removed 2 aspirations.
Yes,
2
beats. Yes.
Nice.
So I'll do that for you. So it'll be. Oh, I can't do it for you. Oh, I think I can't.
Sorry.
So it'll be 3 then for you that you'll get.
Wait, 3? Oh, right. 1 for the end of the session.
Yeah, so that's 3 beats.
Maybe I should give you permission. I should give you access to modifying my cheat.
It's fine. You don't need to do it right now. And Morg didn't let me do it either. So they actually didn't complete their aspirations either, now that I think about it, because they didn't get. Technically Alden is escorting them, but that's not exactly what they wanted. So, but they will get a beat for just being there. So I'll text that to them real quick. Let me just make sure I can find them on here. Okay, so I'm just telling them that. I think I can edit them. Yeah, okay, I can't. Okay, that's fine. I'll stop the broadcast now. Hold on.